Bad decisions have led to tens of thousands of unnecessary deaths. So we all needed the government to succeed in this pandemic. And that's why supporting the government during the pandemic was the right thing to do for the country. But the truth is, the Tories have got virtually every big decision wrong, either in substance, in timing, or both. People have died. Tragically, more will do so. It's possible to forgive an unprecedented situation if ministers' hearts are in the right place and they're trying their best. But we've seen chaos, confusion and cronyism at the heart of government. And we had another example of it this weekend, when the Prime Minister and the Chancellor claimed that they had miraculously been selected for a trial so they could avoid isolation. Isolation that hundreds of thousands of the rest of us have dutifully taken. With family events cancelled, businesses having to close and workers going without pay, Johnson and Sunak's attempts to dodge isolation were crass and they were insensitive. At a time when we need to maintain confidence in self-isolation, parents, workers and businesses will be wondering what on earth is going on in Downing Street. And that's why I've written to the Prime Minister, because there are, I'm afraid, too many unanswered questions. The Prime Minister's claim that he did look briefly at the idea of taking part in the pilot scheme. That rides coach and horses through the claim that Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak have been magically selected for the trial. It is completely inconsistent with the Downing Street press release yesterday morning saying that they were participating in the trial and the pilot. So let's be clear. Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak only went into isolation because they were busted. We've seen once again their instincts on show. One rule for them, another rule for the rest of us. The government needs to publish all the details of how ministers deemed themselves eligible for this scheme at a time when the public have not had the same access to it. And there are more questions arising from the Prime Minister isolating at Chequers. Did Boris Johnson travel to his country retreat after the Health Secretary first had symptoms? You'd have thought that given the amount of money spent on refurbishing Downing Street, he would have been happy staying there as the Chancellor has. But we know that the Prime Minister likes to look for a loophole. We need to know when the Prime Minister was contacted and where he was when he was contacted. We know that Michael Gove tried this ploy back in May after the Champions League final. Will the government now release a full list of Conservative ministers who've benefited from the trial and avoided self-isolation? Many businesses and individuals have struggled to do the right thing and follow the rules. They would have benefited from this policy. Tube workers on London Underground, which is now facing staff shortages due to self-isolation, leading to delays and to cancellations. They could have benefited from the scheme. But contrary to government claims, Transport for London has not yet been confirmed as a participant in the scheme. This is just the tip of the iceberg. There are hundreds of thousands of people who've been forced to miss family events, close businesses and go without pay because they have done the right thing. And yet ministers have played the system. Children sent home from school after positive cases in their bubble. NHS staff working overtime to cover staff absences and businesses struggling to run a normal service due to their employees self-isolating. These people deserve an immediate answer from ministers about the Cabinet's participation in this scheme. This cannot go on. The public need clear leadership at this time, not this hypocritical way of trying to do things that just undermine confidence in the rules and put lives at risk. We can't afford to get this wrong. The price we'll all pay is too high. So I call on the Prime Minister to join me in urging everyone, including his ministers and his mates, to continue to follow the rules on self-isolation. The government urgently needs to change course, drop plans to lift all restrictions and rebuild public faith in the isolation system they've undermined at the same time. The chaotic, incompetent way Boris Johnson conducts himself is dangerous. It makes for bad government and it has deadly consequences for the British public. Wave one, more people died and more economic damage was done because the Prime Minister was too slow to act, stuck at checkers when he should have taken charge. Wave two, more people died and more economic damage was done because of Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak's decision to ignore the science and delay a lockdown in the autumn. This deadly error was made worse by a failed Christmas gamble that caused heartache to many. On wave three, more people died and more economic damage was done, just as the NHS and the British public had given us light at the end of the tunnel with the vaccine programme. The Prime Minister threw the country into chaos once again by delaying border controls and allowing what we're calling the Johnson variant into the country. And now, today, a reckless free-for-all. His character causes chaos. His leadership causes mayhem. Labour does not support the government's plan. Lifting all restrictions in one go is reckless. And doing so when the Johnson variant is clearly out of control risks a summer of chaos. We're heading now for an NHS summer crisis. We will always support jobs and livelihoods, but Johnson's recklessness risks plunging us back into restrictions again. Freedom Day is just the latest in a long list of slogans not backed up by policy. This will not be Freedom Day for the 100,000 people per day catching COVID and the millions more being asked to isolate. It's far from Freedom Day for the 3.7 million clinically vulnerable who've once again been ignored. The government has once again lost control of the virus and lost public trust in its messaging. They need to think again on their reckless plan before it's too late. Thank you. I'll now take some questions. Thank you.